Hopefully this technique really makes an impression on you. This video is about how to make and use coining dies, which you can see a sample shown here. And it's how both ancient coins and even mints today continue to make coins, which is basically just a more of a percussive die than a slower hydraulic kind of forming process. And the dies are carved with a recess, and then the metal is forced into that recess. And so we'll just get into how to approach that. These are some great examples of some ancient Greek gold and electrum coins, where again they would have had the die that they carved the recess into. They would have had a pre-measured weight of gold that then would be forced into that die to produce these raised impressions. So let's just get into it on how you might want to be doing it for yourself. So here I'm starting with a section of tool steel that I have polished up, because whatever surface you have is going to impart itself to the pieces that you press. I'm using an industrial diamond coated carving burr and carving those recesses into it, and I'm using a liquid burr life to lubricate it, because you don't want to overheat your burrs while you're carving. So I'm just doing a very basic geometric design using different shapes of burrs. You want to keep it firmly in place so that you're not skipping across the surface of the die. If you look closely, you might see I have a couple little skips there, but hopefully they won't show up in the final impression. And here I'm just changing from more of a ball burr to a conical burr to put the sort of the rays of the star design into that piece. So it's very important. You want to make sure that your burr is held in that same place, very stable. You're holding onto your piece, and of course that you're not skipping that burr across the surface of your die or into your hands. So you could certainly use a thicker sheet, but I prefer to make sort of smaller little ingots, just like they would have in ancient time, since then you have that sort of smashed little crusty edge that is so indicative of those ancient coins. So you can just melt a particular amount of metal and then let it ball up with its own surface tension, and then pickle it, clean it, and get it ready to go. These are some examples of some dies I made years ago for a horse-themed exhibition. It was a fun little carving project. I think they turned out pretty nicely. You have a little full-size horse and then just a little horse head, and incorporate that into some jewelry designs. But similar kind of approach that I'm showing in this video of just carving into those tool steel dies. I've also had great success with using a very small mill in a CNC router and carving some dies and then hammering blanks into those. I've also machined some. Doesn't have to be tool steel. This is a brass blank that I machined on a lathe, and you can see it transfers quite nicely into a thicker sterling sheet. And the process is really simple. Here you see the CNC machine die with a urethane pad protecting the anvil, and a heavy forging hammer, and just a single strike, boom, and there you go. If you do have access to a flywheel press, that of course would be a bit of a safer setup. But if you don't, just make sure that your die is held securely. Here you can see it held in vice grips there on the anvil, ready to be struck. And just make sure that you're securing the die so it doesn't become a projectile when you strike it. And here you see the sample that I made for this short video. And a couple important things is, with your die, you want to make sure that it is perfectly flat, and both the front and back surfaces are perpendicular, so that you don't have anything sort of on an angle that might cause it to not strike square. Also, you can see a little bit of oil clay there. I use that to check the die as it's progressing. And you can see two little samples there of that small little melted ingot along with a thicker piece of sheet, and the slight differences in how they make their impressions. I hope this video has been helpful for you, and I would love to see what amazing dies and creations you make based on this technique. So definitely get in touch and share your results. Good luck! If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you can hear from me when I post future videos. Thanks for stopping by.